Hello everyone, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to take 2 of my afternoon tea time and a card. So just to let you know, I have given up on my webcam. I did this whole video, this whole class. It was so fuzzy that I ended up deleting it, and I'm redoing this whole class. And I'm going to post it on my Facebook page and on YouTube. So this is take 2. Now, before I get started, I wanted to announce that next week for my weekly afternoon tea time and a card, we just completed the deadline for our Christmas sampler swap. I wanted to show you one that I did last year with my team. This was one that's a little different only because we have 3 layers on the one that we did. Let me bring it up closer so you can see. And the one that we're going to be working on next week has 2 layers. I am going to post about this also on our Facebook page so you guys are ready. I just want to tell you what you need ahead of time. Now, I am the type of person that likes clean backgrounds, so that's why you see me using white here. You are welcome to use anything you want because it's your sampler. So if you want to do it like mine with the white clean look, you're going to need 2 pieces or 2 12 by 12 cardboard pieces from the designer paper. If you look on the back of your designer paper package, that's what I use to do mine on. If you choose to do designer paper, you're going to need 1 of these because we do something to help position our squares. And then I just brought 2 sheets to show as an example. These are from the Trimming the Town designer paper. Something like this would look great with your squares. But again, if you choose to go with the clean and simple look like I did here, all I did was stick this to the white piece of the cardboard from your designer paper. So look on Facebook for a post and I'll list everything that you need. Now for my afternoon tea time and a card today, I am featuring our brushed metallic cardstock. I'm going to lay it down right here so that it doesn't flash too much in the camera. But you can see that I have the copper, the champagne, and the gold. There's 3 different colors. I'm using all 3 of these on 2 cards today just to show you 2 variations and using this cardstock. So let me start out with card number 1. Now, because this is take 2 for my video, I usually have 1 card to show you. Today I'm going to have 2 cards because I did this once already, and I'm going to do a 3rd card. So this is how I did the first card using 3 strips, 1 of each color. And you can see how nice and shiny that is on the front of my card. So let me bring in the supplies that I'm using. I'm using the Happy Birthday sentiment from Peaceful Moments right here. I am using His Love, the little branch image that you see here. And if you missed my video from last week, I featured this stamp set. I'm just going to bring the 3 cards that I made last week, just so if you did miss, you'll see what kind of cards I did. These were the 3 beautiful cards using this stamp set. I did some coloring here with the blends marker, the stamping blends. I did the masking technique on this one. And this one is with a fuzzy, I can't remember what it's called, the poinsettia paper. It's like a vellum, and it's got a fuzzy, soft finish on the front. So if you missed the class, you can find it on our Facebook group, Stamp and Ink Designs. And you can also find me on YouTube, and it'll be there for you on YouTube. Now I'm going to be using a 3rd patterned paper from the Gilded Autumn designer paper. I've got Very Vanilla cardstock. This is the thick Very Vanilla, 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and fold that. The designer paper measures 5 1/4 by 4. So I'm going to glue that in place. You'll notice that I chose 3 of our patterns that have the gold or copper foil on them. Very pretty. So you can see that you can use any pattern to do this technique. Now I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of paper. I have all 3 of the metallics, and they measure 4 inches by 1 inch. I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive on the back. Whoops. Because I want to glue them all side by side. I'm going to start with the gold, the copper, and the champagne. Now I'm going to bring in the StazOn Jet Black ink with the branch image. And because this paper tends to be a little slippery, especially using the StazOn ink, make sure you ink your stamp liberally with the ink. You need to go straight down and don't move it so that it slides. It can slide very easily. And you'll see that I'm going to stamp all the way around. Just kind of turning my image so it's not the same at each time. And I'm going to fill in as much as I can without overlapping. Now this ink does dry pretty fast, but I'm going to actually set it aside and do the rest of the card. And now I'm going to just add little bits and pieces where I see some blank spots, just to finish this up. Okay, I think that, oh, let's do one more right here. We'll do another leaf. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Isn't that pretty? And because the ink is non-porous, you can stamp with this ink on any type of material. That's what is great about the StazOn. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment, and I'm going to cut it out with a tailored tag punch using the same ink. This is just a scrap piece of Very Vanilla. With a tailored tag punch. Now let me bring my cards back in. Now the only thing I cannot do, but I'll show you where it comes from, the little belt buckle, I ended up using the last one on take 1. This is the antique corners and slides elements. You'll see that all I have left in my package is the little corners. So we're just going to pretend that I do this, and it's a little bit, a sliver, a little bit less, just a smidgen less than 1/4 of an inch wide. Let me put my ink away so I don't make a mess. So now we're going to go ahead and peel these off. And I'm going to set them in order that I had them glued on this scrap paper. And I'm going to go ahead and add stamping dimensionals to the back of each of these. And we're just going to glue those in place on the front of the card. So I'm going to start out with this one. Make sure my card is open on the bottom, because you want your images to match up perfectly so they're continuous. Make sure that's my next one. I can see how pretty and shiny that is on the camera. Actually, I'm just going to flip this one over and glue that one last. Well, wait a minute. I actually need to make sure I'm going to be going in the right direction. Let's see. So that goes right here. I'm going to line this up and then add this one last, just so I can center it. Okay, there's my 3 panels. Next, we're going to add more dimensionals to the sentiment. And I'm actually going to glue that so it's a little off to the right hand side. I'm going to say about there. And then this is where, if I had any more of these little belt buckles, I would thread that through. And what I actually did to keep this on there is I added a glue dot underneath the belt part, the buckle part, so that it would stay in place. And then I also glued that with glue dots. So what I'm going to do, only because I don't have one, I'm going to cut this at an angle like I did on the first one. And then I'm going to bring in some glue dots, and I'm just going to glue this in place and pretend there's one on there. And all I did, this is a little long, was slide that under the sentiment. And that's where the little buckle would go. So there's card number 1 using the brushed metallic, and you can see there's 3 designer papers there. So let me go ahead and set up for card number 2. And again, I have 2 to show you. Now on this one, I am using the sentiment from Celebrate Sunflowers. Let's celebrate you. Pretty Peacock ink. The banners Pick a Punch. And then I have some embossing folders. I'm actually using 3 of 4 of these. These are the wrapped in texture. You can see that there's little 4 clusters of polka dots repeated in the background. This is like a textured weave or a basket weave. And then the Meadow Moments, this one has butterflies mixed in with the branches, and then this is just some branches off to the side. We're going to use the one with the butterflies today. And this is the second card that I'm going to show you how to create. Again, I am using, let me bring the pieces in, Forever Greenery designer paper, and I'm using a different pattern. This one had just jade for the ink, garden green, and then of course we're using the Pretty Peacock on this one. Let me go ahead. Now all of my little squares that you see here, I have 1 in each color, and they're all 1 by 1. I just want to put the colors together because we're going to use 1 folder per color. This is Soft Sea Foam 11 by 4 1/4 scored at 5 1/2. The designer paper is 5 1/4 by 4, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that in place. And you know, it's kind of funny because on my first take of this video, I told my viewers that I was getting low on birthday cards. Well, now I have 6 cards. Because we have a random act of kindness on our Facebook group. If you're interested in joining, we send out birthday cards every month to each other. This is another layer of Soft Sea Foam, 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. I'm going to also glue that in the center. And my next layer is Whisper White. Even though you don't see it here on the cards, that is what I glued my little squares to. So because we have 3 inches going across and 4 inches going down, I cut it just a smidgen, so 2 7/8 by 3 7/8, just to have a little bit of wiggle room to glue my squares down. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring in my die cutting machine, and we're going to do the embossing of all of the squares. And the first one I'm going to do is, let's see, we'll do the little polka dot. Now for the die cutting machine, I'm using platform plate number 1, plate number 2, and then my gray plate number 4. I'm going to start out with the gold pieces. The copper pieces. And I'm actually going to try to line these up as straight as I can, only because the dots are kind of all in rows. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to run this through. And let me show you what that looks like. It's so pretty. Okay, there's the dots. Let me not get too close here. Hope you can see that. The next one is the one with the butterflies. Now, all I did with this one is I looked on the embossing and I just located a butterfly and I just kind of scattered them. Let's see, we got one more right here. So that one, they don't need to be too straight because you're just trying to get a butterfly on each one. Okay, and then this, look how pretty with the butterflies. So there's number 2. We got one more to go. And that one is using the little basket weave. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but it looks like a basket weave to me. I'm going to try to line these up straight also because they kind of go straight across. Oh, I see one that moved on me. Hold on. Okay. Now we are done. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to add bling to card number 1. So I'll do that at the end when I do the bling on this card. Now we need to glue all of these squares. And we need to make sure that they're not the color next to each other. I'm going to add adhesive. I'm going to try to fill this up as much as I can, just so that the squares will capture some of the adhesive. Adhesive sheets would work well on this also. I'm going to start out with the champagne. Move over to the gold. And then the copper. And what I'm paying attention to mostly is lining up on the inside because I'm going to trim all 4 sides when I'm done. So now I'm going to move over to copper on this side. And I want my butterflies to make sure that they're flying upwards too. So I'm paying attention to my butterflies. Okay, there we get 3. Now I'm going to move over to the gold on this side, followed by copper and another butterfly. And my last row, I'm going to start out with a butterfly. Move over to the gold and the copper. So look how pretty that is. Now all we need to do is trim all 4 sides. Let me see if I can find my trimmer. What did I do with my trimmer? Here it is. So I'm just going to flip this over. Trim all 4 sides really close to the edge. And look how perfect that is. Now we can add that to the front of the card. So I'm going to use Stamping Dimensionals. And you guys, I can't wait to put our sampler together next week. You know, I had 11 groups, 9 people per group. So that's 99 people we had joining on the sampler swap. So if you guys are watching this on Facebook and you don't belong to my Stampin' Ink Designs group, you're missing out on a lot of fun. Okay, Pretty Peacock ink. You know what? I need to check my paper. It looks a little crooked. This is 1x4. It was a little crooked. When my first video messed up, I really quickly cut all this paper. I had to cut everything all over again. So here's my sentiment. Then we're going to bring in the punch. So let me put the ink away. I'm going to use this one right here. Now when using this punch, it goes in very easily, but it's very easy to mess it up on the back. So I always flip it over, make sure that it's nice and centered. Do the same thing on the other side, because it's just really easy to, it can slide a little bit. Now, because this is bumpy on the front, I use liquid glue to glue this down. So I'm going to position this right about there. Make sure that's nice and straight. And I need some bling. Here's my bling. So what on this card, I forgot to add on card number 1. I'm going to add a big one down here, medium, and small. So you can see there on card number 1. And then on card number 2, we're actually going to glue that to the sentiment layer. And I'm just going to use the small ones this time. And for those of you that are going to watch the replay on Facebook, I'm going to draw a name for those of you that either share or comment, a name to win one of each of these cards. So I actually won't have 6 birthday cards because I'm giving 2 away. So let me bring these all back in. You can see the 3 designer papers on each card, just to show you a little variation, difference of the patterns. So thanks for joining me on take 2 if you're watching this a second time around. And I can't wait to see you guys next week to do our sampler squares together. Have a good day, everyone.